Godzilla vs. Gigan. Really, this film is either one of the worst or one of the best. Depends on what you're doing or what type of personality suits you. Don't let the poster fool you. It's not as epic and legendary as you think it would be. It's just a slob fest of stock footage and stock music. The only epic part about it was freaking the final battle and the introduction of the Destroy All Monsters theme in the intro. This film is also notable for being the last performance for Haruo Nakajima, the guy who portrayed Godzilla since 1954. And it's also notable for being the first Godzilla film that had special effects not featured by E.G. Tsuburaya. This time, it would be handled by Teruyoshi Nakano, who had a rather unique way of doing stuff. What do I mean by that? Well, let's push on to this slop fest and I'll show you how. The movie starts with a down-on-his-luck manga artist, Gengo Kotaka, who was hired by this shady organization to draw some concept art for their little theme park, Godzilla Land. Notable for the infamous tower that looks nothing like Godzilla. I mean, I'm no big G fan as ElGoji98, but even I know when they're kind of disrespecting the source material. Especially when it's Toho themselves that did this. I mean, seriously, look at his spikes. They look nothing like the real ones. I mean, at least they got the height correct, but that's it. Also, the face looks a bit cringy looking. But yeah, that little tower there would prove to be pivotal later on in the movie. Why? Well, apparently these guys have some sort of magnetic tapes that, when activated, it can make any monster in a, 5,000 kilometer radius be able to talk. And don't get me wrong, I was always fascinated with the idea of monsters talking, but the way these guys did it was so horrible that why did I even bother watching this? I mean, seriously, take a look.
Something funny going on. You better check. Oh, yeah. Hurry up.
Yeah, that shtick's not cute. Not cute at all. They practically sound like old men on crack. And yet, in the Japanese version, they actually put speech bubbles in the original. Now, most G fans out there, specifically a British guy, I won't say names, have put the speech bubble clip with the English dub on it, which normally wasn't the case until the release of the Criterion Collection that ElGoji supposedly paraded around my house when it came. But it didn't include any dialogue, but it had some really cheesy dialogue written in them. Just check out a brief glimpse. Anyways, you guys choose which one is worse. The bad dubbing or the horrendous use of speech bubbles. You choose which one is worse. Anyway, back to the plot at hand. Anguirus shows up and sees the tower, finds it suspicious, and the guys also had another problem to deal with. Apparently, Kotaka was kidnapped by some sort of hippie or counterculture agents and tasked him on a mission to help them rescue their long-lost brother, who apparently was working there but disappeared ever since. They haven't heard from him. And cue a really boring montage of searching around and finding him. I mean, couldn't they have done that with better music or better cinematography? Oh my gosh, it was so boring. It felt so heavy. I felt like 5 minutes felt like it took 2 hours. But at the same time, however, these guys revealed themselves to be aliens. How typical. But they summoned not just King Ghidorah, but somebody else. Gigan, the legendary cyborg chicken himself. I never really liked his films, but I loved them in the games. Specifically destroy monsters melee. Mainly because, well, look at him. He's pretty cool up close. I mean, he has a freaking laser beam from his eyes. He has hooks for hands. He has a buzzsaw in his beer gut that can slice up anything. And the Atari version has a cool sounding roar. But when it came to this, his intro could have been better because, first of all, King Ghidorah looks like a freaking still puppet. And Gigan doesn't do much to improve the situation either. But still, he's a pretty cool monster. I mean, even though I mostly know him from the Godzilla games. And because his rage attack, you could practically just whack away any monster with your hooks. He sounds cool. Anyway, they get summoned and they land down to Earth where they start rampaging over the city. So while King Ghidorah gets his own stock footage, let's say, Gigan tramples through Tokyo at night and just destroys highways, hooks through buildings. I mean, it's a pretty cool monster. And yeah, the only problem was he doesn't use his laser beam in any of those scenes. Either Toho didn't have the money or he's just that powerful. Also, he's pretty notorious in Godzilla lore because when Godzilla and Anguirus arrive at the theme park, Gigan does something that no other monster, not even Ghidorah, has done before. He's the first monster to ever make Godzilla bleed. And not only that, he was able to make him bleed twice. He struck him in the head with his hook. And he started having a little concussion on the head. Anyways, first fight didn't go so well, so now that Godzilla and Anguirus are together, they start fighting in a factory, which then leads them to the battlefield in the theme park, where at the same time the group of counterculture hippies broke in to rescue their brother, to say the least. And yeah, the battle doesn't go so well for the two Earth defenders. I mean, Gigan and King Ghidorah are more than what they can handle, so in one of the most cringy scenes in the film, Godzilla does a little pep talk to Anguirus, and all he hears this. Yeah, not the greatest of plans, right? So while they talk gibberish and the others were dancing around, at least we get a kick out of it by seeing the literal shell kicking. And boy, don't you love that. While all that was going on, Godzilla sees his own tower, to say the least, and proceeds to go and destroy it. Seeing as the tower has a hidden weapon, which is a laser, that fires at him whenever he gets too close. But unfortunately for the aliens, the laser doesn't fire because the counterculture hippies end up sabotaging the controls, also burning them. And a rather unseemly sight for those of you who are afraid of bugs, specifically house pests. Because the aliens there are actually cockroaches. And you're gonna need more than a chancla or a bottle of Raid to stop them. I mean, seriously, who had the right idea to put a house pest as an extraterrestrial being? I mean, it's not that they can't do much either, because all they can do is either fly, which is pretty creepy, or shoot out their poison or something. So they find their brother, and they were able to get out and rig the whole building with explosives so that they can see the fireworks while Godzilla and Anguirus beat up Gigan and King Ghidorah, with the aliens powerless to stop them. But Gigan doesn't want to give it up yet, especially after sawing Anguirus in the face with blood spurting all over the camera. Also, so Gigan, seeing the battle being pointless, decides to flee, which, despite Godzilla's best efforts, he gets away, leaving King Ghidorah all alone for Godzilla and Anguirus to step on him once again. Technically, though, it's the first time, because the Strong Monster takes place at the end of the millennium. So technically, they stomped on it. Just another common occurrence. But in our timeline, this would be the last time King Ghidorah would ever appear in the Showa era. At least in a Godzilla film. He would appear in Zone Fighter later on, but that's another story. Anyways, I personally nominate these two monsters here for the Sarcasm Awards for Best Team Ever. Seriously, Gigan bails on Ghidorah, and Ghidorah has been left to fend for himself. And yeah, after ass kicking by Godzilla and Anguirus, he ends up retreating to space as well. And the Godzilla building explodes. Thus, their work there is done. And who in their right mind would have made the ending go like this? Literally saying goodbye to a monster who literally breathed fire on you just because he felt like it. Also, the ending can be considered bittersweet because it puts into perspective that while Godzilla and Anguirus go away after a job well done, it's also a little bit of a farewell to Haruo Nakajima, who portrayed Godzilla for the very last time in this scene. And I guess that was Toho's way of sending him off with a bang, I guess. But I don't know. Maybe they were just really hungover from what happened in the 60s. Overall, it's not a typical film that you would want to watch from the G series. I mean, it's just, I would consider it the films you'd want to watch when you're extremely bored and you have nothing to do, alongside the original version of Godzilla vs. Megalon. So, yeah. I really can't rank this either as one of the worst or one of the best, because it really brings out the worst in Godzilla, and at the same time, it brings out some of the best in him. So it's up to you. But overall, I recommend you get on something before watching this film to make it a bit more bearable. Or if you just want to see a quick clip of a battle, they could probably just skip over a few scenes or two in the DVD menu. But overall, if you're a casual G fan, then you're not missing out on anything. But if you're a hardcore G fan, I don't know how you guys do it. I gotta ask ElGoji98 how he does it. I really do.